Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is SatTV Week. Now I'm pleased to be joined by Jacques Breton of Arianespace. Jacques, we've spoken before. Arianespace is still the dominant force in the launch sector. Is that really good for the industry?
Well, of course I think so. We have been providing the industry with a launch solution for 30 years, a reliable launch solution, which means that we have half of the market have been in this position for a long time. Once again, we are providing stability on this market. That is to say that we have seen in the past a lot of competitors coming and going. We'll perhaps talk later on about competition. But we have always been on this market providing to the industry the service that they require. That is to say, a reliable launch service on time and with a quality of service unequaled. So for our customers, it's stability and assured access to space, and therefore we participated to the development of space in the industry and in the economy.
Now, some commentators are saying that to stay competitive in this market, you've got to have reusable platforms. How are Arianespace addressing that?
Well, I think that to remain on this market, you don't need a reusable solution. You need a cost-effective solution. That is to say that we have chosen a different approach because mainly we are in a different world than the one who have chosen reusability. Reusability works and is economically viable if you have a huge launch rate. And for that, you need, of course, a large market. These competitors are present on an institutional market, the US governmental one, which is huge, on which we are not allowed to compete. And they also intend to launch their own constellation. So a very large number of launches to be performed. They talk about thousands of satellites in these constellations. So you see, it's a very large number of launches they have to perform. We are much more modest, just launching, I would say, half of the commercial telecommunication market. For us, it represents 6-7 Ariane 5 launches today. In total, we launch 12 times a year, and therefore reusability might not be so economically viable. As you see, we are today still the leader of the market. Using a traditional approach. Why? Because we perform a competitiveness plan at Arianespace in the industry. It's clear that we have reduced our prices, we have reduced our cost, and that's why also we go with Ariane 6 to a much simpler launcher, simpler to produce, simpler to operate, less costly, and therefore we'll be still present on the market and still hope to maintain our position with a traditional way to launch the satellite. Nevertheless, we are in Europe working on what we call the blocks of future reusability if needed, with in particular a new engine called Prometheus, using methane and liquid oxygen for, let's say, in order to have the technical solutions if reusability at a certain point in time turns interesting for us. For instance, if there is this development of the constellations, we see a lot of constellations programs today present on the market as possibilities. If they all come to fruition, or if a certain number of them come to fruition, there could be the need for a huge number of launches. In that case, reusability might be interesting. But for the time being, we think that we'll be able to continue to provide cost-effective solutions to our customer in a more traditional way.
Price pressures on the operators and the constellations themselves dictates that, to a certain extent, we need competition into the market. SpaceX seem to deliver that competition. How do you view that at the moment? Are they affecting your price structure or not?
Well, it's clear that SpaceX came on the market with very low prices. Well, very low prices mainly on the commercial market. It's very different from, their prices are very different on the institutional market. If you look at what they price for instance, the last GPS launch that they sold, I think, if I remember correctly, it's $96 million. It's much more than what they quote on the commercial market. So it's clear that the prices that they have on the commercial market had an influence on us, put a lot of pressure, and we have been obliged in a certain way to react and to lower our prices and cost. And we perform this exercise in the industry and at Arianespace. Of course, with an existing product and system and organization, you rapidly come to the limit. Therefore, that's why we go to Ariane 6 and to a new organization in Europe of the space industry and our relationship with the industry. You know that now we are a subsidiary of Airbus Safran Launcher, so we get closer to the industry. Industry got closer to the market. All this to improve our efficiency. So that's the first point. Nevertheless, once again, in spite of prices, our prices which are higher than those of SpaceX, the customers still value our offer. Why? Because we are reliable, 78 successes in a row for Ariane 5, while our competitor not long ago had a string of 2 failures, 1 year apart, one from the other. Has still to increase its launch rate because it got a lot of commitments, signed a lot of contracts, but still has to deliver. So it has to increase drastically its launch rate to be able to deliver, while we just have to keep our pace with 6-7 Ariane 5 launches per year to deliver our commitments. For instance, you know that we launched 2 satellites at a time on Ariane 5. In May, we performed 2 launches. One Ariane with 2 satellites, one Soyuz with 1 satellite. In June, we performed 2 launches of Ariane 5. So we will have launched 7 satellites in 2 months. So you see that we are able to deliver very rapidly satellites. So the customers still value our offer, reliability, availability, transparency in our relationship. They know all what's going on our launch vehicles, which is very important for them to adapt to any situation. So once again, I think that we bring value to the customer.
Finally, it's a very enviable position to be in, but how do you stay there? Are we going to see some low-cost entrants coming from Asia?
Well, it's an effort of every day, I would say. First, it starts by serving the best you can the customers you have, because the customer of today, the one who are in your backlog, are the customer of tomorrow, the one with whom you are going to negotiate new contracts. So the first thing is to serve them in the best way you can. Launch them, of course, successfully. That's what we do. Launch them on time, because this is very important for them, and also provide them with visibility for them to know what is happening, be able to adapt their communication, their solution, and so on. And of course, reduce our costs in order to remain competitive when there is these new entrants. We spoke about SpaceX, but we see that there are others. We see Blue Origin. In Asia, we see that the Japanese are coming within soon with a new H3. We see the progress in India of the GSLV. We see that China is coming back on the commercial market with a solution where they bring both the satellites, the launch vehicle, and the financing. So it's clear that the competition is already very strong. I think it will get even more fierce in the coming years. So it's really a battle of every day, a battle externally against the competitors, and a battle, I would say, internally to maintain our quality of service and improve, let's say, as far as possible, our cost effectiveness.
Jacques, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.